Bed. Love.
Bed.
Bed.
Love. Beyond.
Bed, love, beyond. Bed, love, beyond.
Welcome to Bed Love Beyond, the podcast for the hopeful and the hater in us to discuss sex, love, relationships, and whatever's clever with like-minded people like you who are also in limbo with love like us. I'm Miss April.
I'm Jen, and we are here with episode 144. My drive went out because nothing wants to work today. 144. What are you offended by today? And we have special guest from Chicago, co-host of the new podcast Menage-A-Pod, TJ Sopoci. Welcome.
Hi guys, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on and looking forward to having some great conversation.
Yeah, us too. Real quick, we have a quick daily dish. We're doing bi-weekly, like we announced last week. April, I told everyone. Mm-hmm. They've been announced. And I just wanted to quickly get April's take on, and TJ, please add in April's and TJ's take on the whole Surviving R. Kelly documentary and what's been going on. April?
I've been still following because I don't want it to be, I don't think it's over. So
no, it's not over.
I don't want to be one of those people that's like, yeah, mute R. Kelly. R. Kelly's a monster, and then 2 weeks later we all just forget and go on with our lives. So
right.
I'm still following. I know, some of the young ladies have been on more talk shows and more. They was on Jada Pinkett's Red Table Talk. Can't think of her name right now.
There was a Dateline documentary that came, a Dateline Friday night thing that came out.
We're seeing still doing interviews.
So another girl who was like not in the documentary was on that.
Right. I think the saddest thing besides the fact that these women were violated is that it's become a contest of, well, if you get R. Kelly, you have to get this one.
Right.
If you talk about R. Kelly, you have to talk about this person.
I don't know if you guys saw yesterday, people were like coming at Taraji P. Henson because Taraji P. Henson like went on her IG stories and was like, hashtag mute R. Kelly, and there was like 33,000 posts about it, and then she wrote hashtag mute Weinstein, and there was like one, and then she went hashtag mute Harvey Weinstein, and there was only 3, and then she was like looking for a friend. And like people just came at her like, yo, it's not the same, right? Like, and people were like, well, he's a musician. I'm like, what? And
right.
Like, it's not even that. Like the money that he's making is from like music being played or whatever,
right,
is what's funding this like legit cult that we talked about, and people don't like really want to see that.
And the thing with Weinstein is first of all, he has been shut down. He
right.
is no longer the head of his company. He's not thriving. I mean, he's probably still getting royalties, I would assume, or whatever from what he's done. But are people going to go on IMDb and look up if the Weinstein Company produced a movie and not watch it? It's not going to happen. Right. Let's be real. I'm not doing it. Who has time for that? Right. But like, I think R. Kelly is not a behind-the-scenes artist. He's in the forefront of his art. He is the face of his brand, so it's easier to mute him because you don't have to go in the credits and search and look did he have anything to do with something. He's the face of his brand, so it's different.
So TJ, you're in Chicago.
To a lesser extent from what we saw with Harvey Weinstein in the aftermath of that, they obviously talked to many actors and directors that worked with him, and for the most part, I think people were very quick to distance themselves from him and be very clear on their stance. And with R. Kelly, this is obviously something we've known about for a long time, that it's been going on, and it took a little bit longer, but you're still seeing that same thing, whether it's Lady Gaga or any other musicians that collaborated with him, and now with Sony Music finally dropping them, there's consequences, and we're seeing that, and I know that justice does not look the same for every person in the United States. But comparing the way one person is judged or dealt with versus another, especially R. Kelly versus Harvey Weinstein, at the end of the day, they both are horrible men who did horrible things, and they should be judged on the merits of that.
Mm-hmm. What is it like in Chicago now? Like, I know you were saying before we had our technical difficulties that there's a lot of like protesting, and I've seen that like people were outside of his whatever that is, his studio / house, and you keep seeing raids happening.
It's definitely, I would say that it's really charged for the most part. People are very supportive of the victims, as you would hope, but there are a huge block of R. Kelly supporters who have been pretty staunch in that, and there have been protests, and I don't know if you guys saw, but in a performance in Chicago just this last week, Erykah Badu on stage brought up the issue, and basically her stance was that we know some of the things that he went through as a child and some of the abuses that he's faced. So if one of these victims of his abuse then goes forward to commit abuse, will we judge them as harshly as we judged R. Kelly? So it's really kind of a heated dynamic, and obviously with him being a Chicago guy, we've been hearing quite a bit about it.
I could imagine. I mean, everyone's kind of still talking about it, and I was like...
So you got a lot of heat for that, too.
Yeah.
I think part of the issue is that R. Kelly can afford and have the resources to get help.
Right.
Like, I, for one, cannot waltz into any therapist's office and get therapy.
Right.
Because my insurance won't pay. And I don't have $200. I talked to a really nice lady one time, and she actually made me feel very comfortable and let my guard down over the phone. I'm like, you are good. But she was also $200 an hour.
Damn.
And she didn't take private insurance. She didn't take any insurance. So I'm like, R. Kelly had the means to have a therapist come to his home and do whatever techniques for however long it took to help him.
I saw your girl, Ayana, said no.
Mm-hmm. She said she felt like he wasn't ready.
Damn.
That he didn't think he did anything wrong. So it probably was a PR stunt.
Right.
That basically he was going to use as a PR stunt, and she was like, not going to happen. But I get it, because then she's going to look bad. She's going to look like she tried to help him get away with it. That's how that's going to look. Yeah.
Well, this issue is obviously not going away, but it's one thing that people are offended by this week. But there are so many more. Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get started, TJ, you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself so people know, your deal here?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I'm sorry. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
I'm so sorry. I'm really having a hard time hearing you.
He probably can't hear me from here.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your podcast?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to. So I am, as you guys mentioned, the co-host of a Chicago area podcast called Menage-A-Pod. We describe ourselves as a hysterical comedy podcast about sex, dating, and relationships. We really try to approach, both myself and my co-host are divorced in the recent past. We both were divorced in 2017, and she has a history. She was a columnist about dating in the Chicago area on Huffington Post for about 3 years.
Oh, nice.
So we had, and oddly enough, we met on Bumble, and now she's one of my closest friends, podcast co-host, business partner. We've been doing it about 2 months. The response has been fantastic. We've had some really kind of overwhelming early success. We're doing a little bit better than I thought we were going to do off the bat. And I've been looking forward to kind of just getting out there and getting on more podcasts. So I'm really, really excited that you guys offered me the opportunity to talk with you today.
Awesome. Well, welcome and good luck with your podcast, and definitely before the end of the show. Sorry, you probably can't hear me, but before the end of the show, we could exchange, like, you can tell everyone where they can find you. But back to, sorry, are we having noise issues? Shut that door.
I'm so sorry. I'm really struggling to hear you.
It's okay. All right. So, I don't know if you guys have seen this week the Gillette commercial outrage.
Of course. How do you miss it? It's been all over.
What is your take on it, TJ?
Well, I think it's kind of interesting. I have a few thoughts on it. Obviously, at the base of just what the message is, I think that we're all kind of rational, intelligent people, and we can agree that message is a positive message. It's a message about focusing on some things that I know we all can do better with, and taking ownership of that, not just as men for ourselves, but kind of as the whole of manhood. And I know people really get upset about the use of the term toxic masculinity, but the reality is, in this 2019 Donald Trump America, we've definitely and it's not new. It didn't just happen in 2016. This is something that's been going on for a long time. But what I find interesting is you have to ask yourself what the motivation of Procter & Gamble is, what the motivation of Nike was with the Colin Kaepernick ad. I think that it was an intelligent move. They both know that they have a certain customer base, and anyone who works in the CPG world knows millennials are who we're going after. That's who you want to sell to. And millennials are receptive to messages like this. And they're more progressive, they're more left-leaning, they're on the forefront of social issues. So even though we see this very loud backlash from the right, just like we saw with Colin Kaepernick and now we're seeing with Gillette, one thing that was really interesting is that both companies have prospered. Procter & Gamble, stock price up $4 since the ad went out.
Wow, I didn't know that. No, go ahead. I didn't know that.
I'm sorry?
We didn't know that their stock went up because of that ad.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I feel so bad, but I'm really struggling to hear you.
Oh, we didn't know that Procter & Gamble's stock went up due to the ad.
Oh yeah. So since I did a little research just on the kind of financials behind all of this, and it was something that I also had done previously in the aftermath of the Colin Kaepernick situation. So not only has Procter & Gamble's stock price gone up $4 since December 24th, which is about 4.4% increase, which was their largest 1-week increase in the last 8 years. Nike, same story. Their quarterly revenues went up almost 10%. They hit an all-time high in stock price the week after that ad aired. So the reality is, in spite of this very, very vocal minority, that I think the overall public is receptive to messages like this. And you just kind of have to ask yourself, do we think that Nike and Procter & Gamble, in delivering these really kind of forward, progressive, socially conscious messages, are they doing that from a place of trying to be a better corporate citizen? Or are they looking at the bottom line? And I'm not saying that they can't be doing both, but that's definitely a question to ask.
Right. And I'm sure these things are a commercial like that is tested in front of different groups and diverse groups, men, women, just to see how people respond to it.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I mean, they'd absolutely have to. And one of the other things that we've seen in this backlash is the amount of companies, especially in the Gillette situation, who have answered, whether that's been in social media or there's a watch company I was just watching today. They released actually a television and print ad targeting this Gillette ad, basically about the flip side of what manhood is. And what I think is kind of funny, honestly, and it just it's not affecting the bottom line. You see this with, for instance, green energy 10 years ago. Companies got really interested in green energy, but again, it was good for society, but it's also good for their bottom line. And as these companies are growing and they're selling more of their products, it doesn't matter. For instance, one person tweeted, a very prominent conservative, I can't remember his name, but his comment was that he would no longer use Gillette products or anything in Procter & Gamble, and that for his next shave, he would look at Dollar Shave Club or Harry's. Well, unbeknownst to the guy who clearly didn't do much research, both Dollar Shave Club and Harry's are very active in progressive causes. So as more companies do that, that sort of limits your option in terms of a boycott. So I think that Procter & Gamble is going to come out of this just fine.
I was just so shocked to see how mad people were. Oh, you're taking our balls away. I'm just like, what?
That's ridiculous.
It was insane. And I'm like, all they're saying is to be a better person. Why does that offend you?
And why is that feminine?
Right.
Why is being a stand-up guy feminine?
Right. Somebody said on our podcast that it was racist. I was like, "What? Where? I missed that."
I didn't see that.
Right over my head.
I didn't see that either.
I'm like, because the black guy helped the white guy, or what? What did I miss?
And I didn't get why it was offensive. I didn't get that. Was that Joe Rogan on the YouTube?
Yeah, Joe Rogan. I was shocked by Joe Rogan.
He actually used the term anti-masculine.
Right.
I'm like, so you're saying masculine is
beating everybody up,
catcalling women in the street,
right?
Boys beating the shit out of each other, a guy not in the mirror, trying to condition his daughter to think positive about herself. That was like one of the clips. The guy was in the a man not in the street trying to tell two young men not to fight. Like, what's masculine? Like, how is that not masculine?
Right.
So I was like, how is it anti-masculine? I thought it was just anti-asshole. Like, stop being a jerk. Like, just be a good person.
And I think a lot of the backlash to it, we live in a culture and in a time where people are just very ready to be angry about something.
Agree.
There's no critical thought. The minute something comes out, people just choose their sides. It's very tribal, and I think if more people were willing to just have an open discourse, it's not anti-masculine. As a man, clearly from the first couple of minutes of this interview, I'm a pretty liberal guy, but I've been a gun owner in my life. I have family who have been in the military. I try to be as moderate as I possibly can, and I think most people who know me would say that I'm manly. But that doesn't mean that I can't do things wherever I can to progress feminine causes and progress the causes of people who are less advocated for, to make sure that my role as a white man, the easiest role in this culture, that I can't use some of that privilege to help in any way I can. And if you're someone who watches that Gillette ad and you see it as anti-masculine or you see it as problematic, then maybe this is a step far, but I'm going to say that you're the type of person that is the problem with our country, and that's why we have the situation we have right now.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
If you have such a problem with it, maybe is that how you act? Like, one of our listeners used the words, it was insulting to their target audience's intelligence, which I'm assuming the target audience for Gillette is men, obviously. But I'm like, how, if it's showing both sides? It showed good guy. I mean, I don't want to use the term. I mean, good and bad is, not necessarily. They weren't necessarily bad people. But it's showing like a guy catcalling and a guy saying, nah, chill.
Right.
Or a guy doing this, another guy saying, chill out. Or, no, like it showed both sides. It didn't just show like, I mean, he was acting like people act like it was a bunch of men in tutus or something. Like, I mean, I didn't get the anti-masculine. Everybody in the thing was masculine. All the men were being masculine, being dads, being,
workers,
just
like
two guys on the street.
I don't know, like. And then somebody, I think it might have been the same listener, said something like, "Oh, we should have an ad of women being promiscuous," and I was like, "What?"
Most ads are women being promiscuous. That's what sex sells means.
Yeah, I mean, I work in an industry that historically has used a lot of sexual imaging in its marketing, and we've gotten away from that as we've become a more socially conscious entity. And even from a personal level, just on the topic of this, if this is masculine. So as a man, I have bullied. I've been bullied. I've certainly, as a younger man, I was guilty of like catcalling and doing things that I absolutely, as a grown adult who is hopefully pretty well adjusted, I don't look back at those things positively, but I do look at them as things that I went through to get me to where I am. And everyone experiences that. It's not anti-masculine. It's the experience. It's the life experience. It's what it means to be a human male in the United States right now.
And you grow from it. That's what happens when you get older and look back on it and say, oh, yeah, I used to do that. That means you don't do it anymore and you've grown.
Some men don't get it. Like, you could tell a man, like, I don't want to be whistled at and I don't want to be like, yo, shorty, or whatever they say. I don't know. I haven't been on the streets in a while.
Yeah, that's 1998. The hell somebody tell yo, shorty.
Again, I haven't been on.
Jen's the serial monogamous.
Yeah, I am. I haven't been on the street in a while. That's the last one I got was yo shorty. I'm sorry.
Jen's also 4'10", so that might have something to do with it.
So, I mean, okay, whatever. Yo, whatever. I don't know what they say, but I don't want to hear it. Like, yo, you need to smile. Why you mean mugging?
Yeah.
What? I'm gonna stab you. What? Come on.
Especially at 30, when you're talking to somebody 35, even 30, 40 years old, nobody wants, people too old for that, honestly. And it's funny you say that because I put in my notes how marketing has always reflected the times. And
absolutely,
whatever's going on in society, marketing is going to reflect that. And this is a Me Too movement world.
Time's up.
Time's up. All that stuff, the movements is going on, and women are in Congress and Senate, and all those things are happening. And so it's like women are running for president, and you can't be like, misogyny is not the thing. It's not okay anymore. And I think marketing is gonna reflect that. Like, that's just what, that's the time of society we're in.
It is, but to that point, I think we can probably all agree that in the last maybe 5 to 10 years, we've seen more kind of progress and social change than we've seen probably in any other 5 to 10 years in our history. And as that's reflected in brand imaging and marketing and in various media messaging, I think to an older generation who really was kind of shell-shocked by that change, this messaging to them seems very in their face. And I mean, I get that, but the reality is if you look at any statistics about just overall opinions about racial issues, women's issues, LGBTQ issues, the majority of society is on the right side. And that gap is growing every single day. We're not getting there overnight. But ads like this, I think we need way more of it and not way less of it.
Has anyone seen it on TV? Because I have not.
No.
It hasn't been on TV yet because I believe it's going to air during the Super Bowl.
Nice.
Oh, it's a Super Bowl commercial. Interesting.
All right. Let's start the shit show now. Well, I'm glad because I probably wasn't going to watch the Super Bowl. Not for any particular reason other than I don't like football. But I do like the commercials, though. So yeah, everyone's like up in arms about that. And then, just to throw something else into the week, and I saw, well, wait, first, does anybody have any final words on the Gillette commercial before I jump topics?
One quick thing. So there was a really funny tweet. It was the best thing I saw, period, amidst all of this noise. And it said, for all you guys out there who hate the new Gillette ad, smile. You're pretty when you smile.
That was great. I did see that somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
I just put something on Instagram today that said there's 8,000 nerves in the clitoris, but nothing has more nothing. Oh, damn it. I'm going to forget what the hell it said and I'm going to say it wrong.
Nothing's more sensitive?
Yes, thank you. Nothing is more sensitive than a white male. And, like, I don't think all white males are sensitive, just like general consensus, but it's a lot of white males who are coming out about, various topics about, like, oh, Gillette this or Gillette that. Like, that seems to be the general
It was like a viral pic of a guy, 2 sons and a daughter. He had a gun, 2 sons had a gun.
Yeah.
The daughter had no gun.
Yeah. And they're like, oh. I got into a fight with another friend because he was like, he put up a meme that said something like, oh, women want to be independent until, like, the shit hits the fan. And it was, like, a guy with a gun, like, protecting her getting out of, like, a building that had, like, an active shooter or something like of that nature. And I'm like, I don't, that's, like, a serious situation, number one.
Right. But what if a female cop shows up?
Right.
I don't give a damn who show up. Get the shooter.
And then I'm like, I hope you're raising your daughter to be like an independent woman. And he was like, I raise all my kids to be independent. And I'm like, well, then that defeats the purpose of what you're saying, dude. Like,
but society already allows boys to be independent, so you don't need to necessarily drill that into your son's head. It's your daughter that needs to hear it. That's the point.
Yeah, I mean,
and people who think, like, a lot of people saying, I don't need to be lectured. I just want you to sell me the razor. But it's not, I don't see where it's a lecture. I think it's just a commercial saying, don't be a jerk. Be a nice guy. Have some morals. I don't think it's a lecture. But if it is a lecture, if you don't need it, great. Good for you. Here's a gold star. But some people do.
And then people are like, well, fuck Gillette. They're too expensive. I'm like, okay, well, then that's fine. Move on. But don't
buy it.
It's the same kind of thing when you hear people complain about actors or people in Hollywood expressing their political views, and they say, you're an actor, stick to acting, or you're an athlete, stick to sports. But the reality is whether you're a big Hollywood actor or whether you're LeBron James or whether you're a brand, if you have a platform, I think you have a duty to speak to the issues that are important to you. And whether you're a human being or whether you're a corporation, there are issues that can be important to you and your brand identity, and that's what they need to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
And the same people who tell them to stick to acting and stick to playing basketball are the same people who say they have all this money and don't donate any of it. Well, donating is political in a way.
Yeah.
Or it's the same person who says stick to acting and then votes for Donald Trump.
Biggest actor ever.
You're like,
acting like a president.
He's got an IMDb page, dude.
But yeah, I mean, people are gonna donate to what they believe in. So it's the same thing. You want them to donate all their money, they're gonna donate to what's like you said, closest to their platform and what they represent.
Right.
Well, speaking of using your platforms, also, what pissed everybody off this week, which was mostly like angry white women. Like I saw some of my mom's friends and they were like, "Can you believe Louis C.K.?" I was like, "What do you do now?" Goddamn. So Louis C.K. had a show this week and he made a couple jokes that people found offensive, and one of them was about how he got caught that he had masturbated in front of people, and he made a joke that he doesn't want to masturbate alone. That didn't offend me. Nothing really does. And then I guess there was another joke that was like a little bit more like off key about the Parkland school shooting. And I don't remember the exact words of the joke, but
something like who are you to tell me anything?
Hold on. TJ knows the joke. TJ knows the joke. Go ahead, TJ.
Yeah. He said, he's like, "How are these kids interesting? Why are they in Congress telling me what to do? You didn't get killed. You're not interesting. You just pushed some fat kid in the way. Why do I have to listen to you?"
I didn't hear the push the fat kid in the way part.
Yeah, he definitely said that.
This is the part with comedy where it's like, should I be laughing?
Yeah.
I mean, and not everybody like wants an apology, and I just kind of wanted to talk about where everybody's stance was on that. TJ, you said you dabbled in comedy, so I'm sure you've seen the whole comedy circuit, and I'm sure you've heard some jokes that are...
Oh, I have. And it's funny because this particular issue, obviously I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I also listen to a lot of just Sirius XM Comedy Central. I have quite a few friends in the Chicago comedy scene, so this is a topic that's been like front of mind for everyone, and this is kind of what I think about it. Obviously, what he said is inexcusable, but to that point, I don't think those topics are off limits. I think, as I think I said to you guys in the message, one of the points of comedy truly is to offend. Now, it's important that you're not punching down and that the things that you do are clearly satire and they are for the purposes of bringing awareness and not for the purposes of, like, maintaining structural oppressions. But you look historically at Richard Pryor, at George Carlin, at Bill Hicks, some of these all-time comedy greats, and they said offensive things all of the time.
True.
Things that at first glance didn't look like they were insightful or intellectual in any way, but they stimulated the conversation. And the one thing that I really respected in that era is a comedian would say that, and then when they were called on it, they did not back down. They would say, "This is why I said it. This is why it's funny." And nowadays, because of the outrage culture, people generally are super quick to backpedal, which is why I'm surprised Louis C.K. has been sort of slow-moving in his backpedal. But one other thing on that, Daniel Tosh, a pretty famous comedian, I think we're all familiar with.
We love Daniel Tosh.
Yeah, he's also had some similar problems, and he had a joke where he said, if you're one of those people who says X thing is not funny, you should never joke about X thing. He's like, I don't want to know you, because there can be funny jokes about anything if it's a well-written joke. And again, not punching down. You just don't want to be doing that.
I'm just thinking about his joke where he talks about how the girl died and there was a speed bump in the road where she died.
Yeah. That's horrible.
That's a great joke. It's so fucked up, but it's great. Or the one about where the guy got his head scalped on the roller coaster ride. He's like, "Was that hat really worth it?" I'm sorry, but they're really...
Oh, yeah, when he gets his head hurt, she punts his head 100 yards.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the most close parallel to this, I don't know if either of you has ever heard of the comedian Anthony Jeselnik.
I've heard of him. Yeah, I've seen him.
Okay, so yeah, he's pretty famous, and he's definitely a very dark comic. He talks about things that are absolutely horrible. The day of the Boston Marathon, he tweeted, "There are some lines you don't cross, ... like the finish line." Clearly, super dark.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huge backlash. His show on Comedy Central was actually canceled over that. And his response was, he's like, "These are just jokes. Clearly, I do not take joy in anyone's death." And he's like, "But the way we get through tragedy, the way we fight through these things together, the way we can critically examine issues and topics is through comedy." And I think that's if we're going to get together on issues and we're really going to see progress, this is, I think, one of the best tools we have for it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Pete Davidson from SNL, his dad died in 9/11. He makes jokes about 9/11 all the time, and people are like, ugh. And he's like, "It's okay. My dad died in 9/11, so I can say that."
Yeah.
But
I do think it could be too soon. I do think tragedies should get a moment of silence. I don't know if you should tweet that, but I don't think his show should have been canceled. I mean,
that's a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, you should kind of give a moment of silence, let the people be buried, and then But I don't think it should be that. I wrote the same thing down when I was thinking about today's show, that comedy is every joke you could think of is going to offend somebody. It could be the most lamest, lightest joke you can imagine. Somebody's gonna get offended from it. It's comedy is meant to offend you, or make you frown, or make you might laugh or frown. Comedy is all of that. So
yeah, and look at, some of the, I think, most popular comedy from some of the most respected comedians, almost universally, if you look at the top probably 15, 20 comedians of all time, one thing they almost all joke about is race. And they dabble in stereotypes and things that are absolutely taboo. But in spite of the offensive nature of some of the things of what they say, it is very clear that they are saying these things not to reinforce the stereotype, but to point out the absurdity of some of the stereotypes.
Right. Almost to be sarcastic about it.
Absolutely.
Now, my question to you guys is, do you think that any of these comedians should apologize? Do you think that Kevin Hart should have apologized? And anyone else before or after this?
No. I don't think comedians should be held accountable for comedy.
Right.
I think it's comedy. You like it, you laugh. You don't like it, don't support them. Don't go to their show. Don't stream it. Don't download it. Don't do anything involved in supporting them if you don't think they're funny. Right. Don't pay $100 to go see them at Madison Square Garden. Don't do anything whatsoever to don't follow them. Don't do anything that'll generate them some kind of income or numbers, or just don't watch them.
We were talking about Corey.
One thing I wanted to bring up, I had sent you guys a quote from one of the survivors of the Parkland shooting. He was in an interview with The Wrap, and they asked him about Louis C.K.'s comedy and the things that he said about the students. And he said, "It's not my job to tell a comedian they're being offensive. I believe comedy exists to be offensive. I don't particularly like that Louis C.K. went after the idea of the movement we started, but comedy is comedy, and I don't think me being offended by it should dictate whether or not it should be allowed to exist." So to that point,
nice.
That is a 17-year-old kid with an intelligent, insightful, reasonable take on something that has people literally frothing at the mouth. I think we could all learn a little bit from this kid.
And that he was affected by, if anyone should be affected, it should be the people who were affected by the shooting. So if he's not offended, everyone should chill the fuck out.
Yeah, and we saw, Sashir Zamata, everyone knows her, I'm sure, from her time on Saturday Night Live and some of her stand-ups. She's definitely one of the brightest young comedic voices out there. And she rewrote the Louis C.K. bit, because one of the parts of the jokes was that these kids shouldn't be concerned with guns. They should be out there finger-banging each other. And Sashir Zamata said, "Hey, these kids are multitaskers. They can care about guns and finger-bang each other." So it's you can write the joke in a way that is kind of talks about it, but it's also funny. You just need to be a little more intelligent about it.
Right.
Louis C.K. is the same guy who was talking about a bag of dicks, so, you can't expect much. his show kind of went like.
Did you guys see, this is also something that pertains to Louis C.K. I caught it a couple of weeks ago, and it didn't catch nearly as much traction as I thought it was going to, but a video came out of a roundtable interview with Jerry Seinfeld, Ricky Gervais, Louis C.K., and Chris Rock. Did any of you see that?
No,
I didn't see that, but I think they mentioned it on the radio that this is this the roundtable where Seinfeld said he didn't believe that using the N-word was okay? But if a comic is going to use it in a funny way, then he's okay with that, but just not for himself.
Yeah, well, he said he didn't even say he was okay with it. He just said that for him, they've done something he never could do, and that's find humor in that word.
Right.
And for me, and as someone who is definitely an advocate for comedy and an advocate for the ability to not go out there to hurt, but to push the boundaries in a search for just kind of a greater understanding. And it was very jarring to me to see two white men and a black man just shooting the shit and dropping the N-bomb back and forth. Like, granted, it's clearly not my style. It wasn't Jerry Seinfeld's style. And although I'm not a huge Seinfeld fan, he earned a lot of respect from me for how he handled that interview. But what do you guys think about that?
I heard a little bit of it on the radio. I thought it was interesting, especially, because comedians I notice comedians tend to understand each other, and they tend to so I thought it was cool that Jerry kind of said that for him it's not funny. Like, I thought that was a cool statement to make, being that usually comedians tend to take up for each other, or kind of have, when it comes to comedy, they tend to have the same stance. So I like that he said that. I heard they played a little bit of it on the morning radio show, so that's how I heard that.
What did Chris Rock say?
I think it was referring to, I don't know if it was, I guess it was a time Louis C.K. was on the Chris Rock show, and I think he used the word. They went back and forth.
Yeah, they were performing together.
Right, and he used the word, and I guess that's how that came. That's what they talked about that, and I guess people didn't like it when it happened.
Right.
But I guess it died down quick, because I don't remember hearing about that.
No, me neither.
And I didn't see it.
Yeah, it came out maybe 4 years ago, and then it just got a little bit of traction again when Louis C.K. was back in the news. But again, I'm surprised it didn't get more focus, honestly.
Yeah,
right.
I'm surprised. I didn't hear anything about that either. I don't know. I'm trying to think who else people were offended by recently. Well, we were talking that we don't really like Corey Holcomb. That we wouldn't really go see him or go to any of his shows. I just don't find him funny.
Right.
I don't really. I was telling somebody, like, everyone's like raving about Sebastian Maniscalco. I didn't really find him that funny either. I don't think he's offensive. I just don't think he's funny. I didn't get it. I didn't get the joke.
I think that comedy in general, it's weird. It's sort of been dumbed down because as we as a society become less capable of critically examining difficult issues, then comedians, I think, are less incentivized to comment on those things. So a lot of what's popular is things that I don't find to be particularly creative or intelligent, and the things that are creative and intelligent usually are right on the line of offensive, and that's kind of a hard place to be.
I know last week on SNL, Pete Davidson made a joke about suicide, and I guess that's like, I didn't take any offense to it because that's his way of dealing with it. And he had just gone on this whole thing prior to the winter break about how he wanted to kill himself, and then he said that he spent like a week with oh God, what's his name?
John Mulaney?
Yes, thank you, John Mulaney. He's like, after spending time with him, he's like, then I really want to kill myself or something to that effect. And they were both cracking up about it, but you could tell that like everyone was like, oh wait, is he supposed to say that?
Should I laugh?
People were like, yeah, like I don't know, but I mean, I don't know. Everyone asking people to apologize is insane. I know that Ellen had Kevin Hart on her show, and she was like saying like, I know you're not a bad person, blah 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 blah. You should really go do the Oscars, and he still said no, and I'm kind of proud of him for that. Like, and because like, it was probably a huge deal for him to do the Oscars. He was like, what did we say, like the third African American,
right?
To like,
and I think it was huge for him because for himself.
Right.
Because he doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the fame.
Right.
I don't know if some of those things you don't get paid for. It's just you kind of get just fame for it. But he doesn't need either one. It was kind of on his bucket list.
Right.
He said. So I guess that's easier to say no because you don't technically he doesn't need it. Yeah.
So.
I don't think he should have had to apologize.
Ellen caught quite a bit of flack for that as well. People were on her pretty quickly for her coming to his defense.
Oh, I know.
They were, yeah. I don't think I don't think comedians should have to apologize. I think if you don't like them, don't support them. But apologizing for a joke, or he's not the only person that's ever tweeted he doesn't want his kid to be gay. I mean,
no.
So I don't apologize for what? His apology didn't matter. People still don't like him. They still saying they're not going to support him because of it. So what did the apology matter?
And the reality is whether he apologizes or not in 2 months, in 4 months, and whatever the time is, everyone's so far past it. And we've all done dumb things. We've all tweeted stupid shit. I mean, even to talk just briefly to another point, what we saw this week with the kid in the Make America Great hat and the Native American gentleman in D.C. Mm-hmm. The people, we've seen like 3 iterations of that story in the media over about a 72-hour span because of that outrage culture. People are like so quick to get angry, so quick to just be, pardon the expression since we're talking about the Native American gentleman, but it's like a tribal nature. People are just, they pick their side, they're really angry, you're definitely going to hear about it, and I don't think there's a whole lot to be really gained from that.
It's crazy how, like, it's, I guess maybe you didn't know people's opinions before, but now with, like, the internet and social media, you know everyone's opinion, and you're like, oh, fuck, there was a reason why I wasn't sure if I liked you or not, and now I'm sure. And, like, I mean, I saw friends in high school that were, like, really cool in high school, played football together. These 2 guys were, like, arguing on his page and going at each other about each other's morals and their moral compass and what kind of person they are, and I'm just like, wow, like, this is insane. And you're right, there has been, like, 3 different versions of the video. I don't know what to believe, but as somebody who, like, I don't want to say dabbles in psychology, like, the body language of the boy with the Make America Great hat on, his body language didn't say, like, he was doing it in unison to be, like, one. His body language said he was doing it to, like, be malicious. Like, nothing about his facial expressions or anything said, like, oh, I'm trying to bring peace to the situation. Mm-hmm. Now, there was a bunch of other shit that happened prior to that, which was completely fucked up. But, like, you know, the main thing that everyone's, like, up in arms about, you know, they're like, oh, he went over there to try to, like, make peace with the man. And I'm like,
On the radio this morning, they said his parents hired a PR firm.
Already?
They did.
They hired a PR firm to spin the situation in his favor, or do what, you know, how PR people do.
Right.
Make him look good, or like or tell him what to say, or tell him, you know, whatever they do.
Some girl posted an article saying that, I guess it was those boys from the Covington High School, that they were also, like, in the past, or there's videos of them, like, catcalling and, like, I guess, like, some, like, rape allegation charges or something. So I don't know if that's true or not, or...
There were photos of their student cheering section during a basketball game painted in blackface.
Oh, I did see that today.
Too. Yeah.
I didn't read the article, but I did see that.
And just 1 or 2 more quick things on that, because this was kind of something I was hoping we'd get to bring up. This is sort of really important, I think, to examine this from this light. Looking at the media response to the turn of events in the Nathan Phillips and that the Make America Great kid, when you look at how quickly we backpedaled, especially looking at, like, news outlets that are on the left, whether that's a CNN or MSNBC or even Trevor Noah on The Daily Show, the minute it was clear the story was wrong, those outlets, Washington Post, they all corrected themselves. And I think on the right, whether that's Fox News or whatever other conservative news outlet, when they are found out to be wrong about something or they incorrectly report something, like, for instance, when they
TJ, you're going in and out.
You're doing what they do. So I think it says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I saw people were... Sorry, and you were going in and out for a second. I wasn't sure if you were there. I saw that somebody was, like, saying, like, oh, shockingly, CNN posted this video of the other side of things. Like, people were, like, really shocked that CNN even posted that video, I guess, showing, like, what happened, like, before with the Black Israelites. Is it us or him?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, TJ, you're kind of cutting in and out. Might have more technical difficulties. People, hold on. TJ, press the side button. Are you there? Uh-oh. Guys, hold on. We might have lost TJ. I'm going to call him right back because I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I saw that today, the article about him being painted in black, the kids being painted in blackface. It's just, I don't know. Uh-oh, we're having technical difficulties. Just bear with us. Go ahead, April.
But yeah, I saw that. It kind of comes across as a bunch of privileged kids that just
More technical difficulties.
Yeah, we're back at it.
We're back.
I'm sorry. So yeah, you were saying, I'm sorry, about the
right not wanting to retract what they were saying.
I just think they never, when they're wrong, when it's clear they're wrong, whether it's Sarah Huckabee Sanders caught in a lie or the president or whoever, Mitch McConnell, there's never a backpedal from the right media, ever.
Mm-hmm.
They just double down because most of the people on that side just are not interested to hear the facts, and it's kind of a confirmation bias. If it's not confirming what they already think to be true, then they have like zero interest in getting that kind of news.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I notice when I see certain things under people posts, like some people have like these staunch Republican conservative people as Facebook friends, and I'm like, and I talked to I messaged a couple of people private, and like, why are you friends with this person? Like, why are you constantly like? I don't want to see them under your post. I know it's your post, but I don't want to see them. And the people were like, I want them to see it. And I want to put it in their face, and I'm just like, it's not gonna do
Change
anything.
it.
It's like this kid we went to school with, dad is like always putting on this crazy conservative stuff, and a lot of them, even under comments from CNN, stuff like that, they say, oh, you guys are just jumping on whatever the media tells you, or you just following what the media say. But you're doing the same thing. You reading your paper or your online news that's telling you your views, their views, and you following it. You don't want to know the whole story.
Right.
So,
right. Well, and honestly, I think anymore, the moderate, I've historically referred to myself as a moderate, but I currently think the moderate location on the spectrum is firmly with Democrats right now. And people freaking out about the reactions and how quickly everyone is to rush to judgment with the media. The reality is this is a 24/7 media cycle, whether it's social media, whether it's 24/7 news on cable. Everyone want to be first to the market with every single story. They want to break the big thing. And because of that, that's why we have 3 major breaks on the same story with 3 huge backpedals in such a short period of time. Because if this was the old days with like a single half hour or hour of nightly news and a newspaper, there wouldn't be time for these things would get kind of sorted out in advance, and we wouldn't have people up in arms all the time about it.
Mm.
Yeah, my dad put up like a post on Facebook that said something like, can you believe that there used to be a man on TV called Walter Cronkite who used to just tell you the news as it happened, and then you get to make up what side of it you want to be on? Mm-hmm. So like, imagine that. Like, no, some certain news channels tell you what you're supposed to think, and depending on what you're watching, then you're like, oh, Trump's like this, doing so good, and I'm like, is he though?
Right.
Because I know people who haven't gotten paid in a month. So, and apparently there was drones around Newark Airport last night. Like, who's regulating this shit? What is going on? I don't know. People are offended by everything, and like, I guess I have to like get off my like social worker post and like stop trying to like defend justice. Like, my friend's brother today put up something about like, what is she? The Senate Ortiz, Alexandria Ortiz.
I think is she a congresswoman?
Congresswoman?
Oh Lord, I think she Congress.
I know. He put up something and he was.
Oh, AOC, I love her.
Yeah.
She's a congresswoman?
She is, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, congresswoman.
Okay.
She's from New York in her district. I believe the most important part of it is the Bronx, so that's definitely where she's getting a lot of support from the younger people. I just read something today that although she's obviously not old enough to run for president, that right now in just random Gallup polls, that she's getting about 40% of support if she could run for the presidency today.
That'd be cool. Mm-hmm. She was saying something, and my friend's brother like put up this whole post about how like she's
someone's at the front door.
Oh Jesus! Well, someone's gonna have to wait. Putting up this whole thing about how there's like I don't know. She put up something about like she likened today's days to like World War II, and then he like basically said, "Oh, she only knows like third grade history and blah 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 blah." And then he's like, "Well, she's fuckable." I'm like, "Oh, you're the reason why we have a Gillette commercial." Like, right. What the fuck?
Oh my god.
So that means he didn't hear or care about anything she had to say politically. He just had something to say about. I mean, that's the same way of how the Republicans put a spin on every time she wore an outfit that they were trying to say was expensive, just because she said she had to wait until she got to Washington, D.C. to get an apartment.
Right.
So every time she wore an outfit, they're like, "Oh, that's expensive." And somebody was like, "I wear expensive stuff from the consignment shop all the time."
Well, and you can't have it both ways. It's like if she would have gone in there dressed in a potato sack, looking like someone who doesn't have much means, they would have had something negative to say about that too.
Right.
I think honestly, you can't win for losing, and what we're seeing is with AOC is not only is the Republicans are they terrified of her, but the Democratic establishment has been sort of pushing back, and there's been a lot of behind closed doors conversations where they're basically telling her to wait her turn and to kind of lower her voice and know her place. And from a party that's supposed to be about progressive politics, I don't think that sends a progressive message at all.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just the whole, like, what are we offended by today? Like, every day, someone has, like, an opinion about something. And they're mad, and they want to post, and be internet bullies. I guess I'm not helping fighting back, right? I'm part of the cause. Well, TJ, it was very good having you join us today. You were awesome. And just for the record, I didn't know if TJ's opinion was going to coincide with ours or not. I figured, if it does, cool. And if it doesn't, might make for something awesome.
Pleasant surprise. We're toppling the patriarchy together.
Yes.
And we like you, TJ, and we don't like too many people. So
this is true.
List is very short.
I'm on the good list. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
TJ, real quick before you...
And hopefully we can get you guys on our podcast.
That'd let us know let our listeners know where they can find you guys.
Okay, awesome. Will do.
Well, no, are you on Podbean or are you on iTunes?
We're on Libsyn.
Okay.
So you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're pretty much everywhere.
Okay, and you're Menage-A-Pod. And are you guys on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook?
We are, yeah. On our biggest, we're on Instagram at Menage-A-Podcast, at Menage-A-Pod on Facebook, and on Twitter we got Shafted, and we are just at Menage-Pod, no A.
Oh, wow.
Okay. All
right. Well, thank you for joining us today, TJ. It was awesome having you. And definitely be in touch, and we will, we'll collab again.
Sounds good, and good luck with your show.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks.
All right. That was funny, bro. So, we've covered a lot today, and there'll be more fun topics for next week. If there's anything that you want to explore, have any questions you want to ask, you can write to us at bedlovebeyond@gmail.com or text us at 201-862-8BED, 201-862-8233. We're at bedlovebeyond on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And April's still at Miss April Speaks.
Yeah.
Any books? Damn. Any books that you want to recommend for our Audible trial people who want to try Audible?
I did have one, and my memory has left me.
So it's www.audibletrial.com/BedLoveBeyond. And April's recommendation for the week is...
Hold on, let me open my Goodreads. First of all, I recommend you download the Goodreads app, because without it, I wouldn't remember anything. And Heavy by Case Lemon. It's a book called Heavy. It's one of the top books of 2018. So go download that. I'm pretty sure.
It's on Audible.
Keese Layman. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure I looked in this on Audible.
All right, cool.
His first name Kiese, last name Laymon.
What is it about? Do you know?
It's his memoir.
Ooh.
I think he's a writer. He has some fiction books he's written that I've never heard of his fiction books, but I've read the little synopsis. They sound good, so I'm gonna read those. But this is his memoir. He's an author, a fiction writer, and This is his his memoir. So it sounds great. Go look it up, download it, listen to him read it.
Thank you, TJ, for joining us again this week. That was awesome. Check out his podcast, Menage-A-Pod, and that's it. Peace.
Peace.